Hi everyone and welcome to Brick Arena. I've got something a little bit different for you this week because I'm currently away on vacation and wanted to give everybody a bit of an update on myself, on life, on the store, on the vlog, on the future of Brick Arena. So this is probably going to be a little bit of a ramble, but hopefully this will clarify some of the questions you might have had from watching me over the last year or so and seeing how things have been changing on the vlogs, and also is really going to give you some insight into where I'm going and what is the future of Brick Arena. But I think before I do that, I think it's probably worthwhile just touching on how I got to where I am and the thought process behind that. And hopefully that'll enlighten some of the things that I'll talk about a little bit later on in the video. So I started my Bricklink journey back in 2015. And at that time I was collecting lots of Lego. I'd pretty much just gotten into the hobby as a whole, and obviously Lego being as expensive as it is, I needed to generate some money, as many of us do, to fund the hobby. And I discovered Bricklink just by pricing up some old parts that I'd found in the shed. I'd found an old tub of Lego that belonged to me as a child, my kids as they grew up, and it had kind of been handed down through various generations. Some of the parts in there going back to the late 50s and early 60s. And that was kind of the gateway drug, I suppose, into Bricklink and what Bricklink was all about. And I begun sort of dipping my toe in the water of sort of selling Lego through purchasing lots of boxes of Series 14 minifigures. At the time, they're from the local supermarkets, Tesco in the UK. And I think the figures were selling for something like 50 to 75p at the time. And it was really easy to sell sealed cases, to sell the figures. And it was incredible, really, at the start, how easy it was to sort of generate some significant profits from that. Now, once I'd seen that sort of inroad into, that money-making aspect of it, then, that intrigued me more and more and led me to buy more and more things with a view to resale. And I went on that path for a year or two, probably, generating income to spend on the hobby. But over that time, my interest grew more and more in the store versus the actual building of the Lego sets themselves. And that's where I found myself spending more and more time and more interest in the hobby. And over the next few years, I did it as a side hustle. I was still working full time, had a job as a senior IT manager with a very reasonable income, to be honest, that Bricklink could never, ever compete with. There was company cars and there was all sorts of things, significant bonuses each year. And it was just never going to be possible to replace that through selling Lego. But there was always that sort of thought in the back of my mind that I'd, like many of us, that I'd really like to give this a go and kind of do it full time. And the way that was always going to be feasible for me was to probably look at early retirement from work and then use this as an income. Now, that had always been the plan, and I had probably a plan to sort of finish work at maybe maybe 60 to 62, and then do this for a couple of years. Now my hand was forced somewhat when COVID hit, and at that point I was made redundant, and that gave me some big decisions to make, because I was used to working a corporate life, and if I'm honest, my experience over the last year or two of that role led me to just think I just didn't want to do that again. And I really couldn't bring myself to, you know, think about interviews and things for those kind of senior positions to get that kind of income that we'd been getting before. And I just lost kind of all interest in that. So I sat down and I thought, you know, why not give this a go full time? And the reason that was sort of viable for me at the time was because by being made redundant, that gave me a significant pot of money that I could use to add to any Bricklink income, to make sure that we could live month to month, and I could invest some of that into the Bricklink store, etc. And that was the plan, and that's what we executed, and that meant that I could run the store and you know, live off that that redundancy money. And it meant that the redundancy money lasted for you know, a much longer period than it would have done if I was living off that in its entirety. But eventually that pot did run out, and you know, that then left you with choices to make. Of course, then you're hoping that by then the income from the Bricklink store is making enough for you to live, which, you know, was the case for many of the months throughout the year. But as we know, when you get to summer months, things slow down, and you know, it wasn't bringing in enough, if I'm honest. Now that was partly my fault, probably through sort of lack of investment. You know, it's a fine balance when you have, you know, considerable outgoings each month. Had a mortgage, got you know, the car, like everybody, I suppose, all of the regular sort of living expenses. But that meant that the amount of money that we needed each month was a fairly significant sum of money still. And you know, that has to come out of profits. Remember, that's not your turnover, that's coming out of whatever profit is left at the end of the month. And you know, we sort of found that a bit more challenging, I guess, than we'd hoped. And that meant that over the last year or two, it's been difficult to invest as much into the store as I wanted to. Now, I need to backtrack a little bit, because aside from that, I'd always, in my mind, for many years, always had a view of kind of retiring at 62 or so. My father passed away at the age of 67, and many of the males in my family, in my older generations, had not really lived to great ages, and so I didn't want to leave it too late to be retiring and spending some time enjoying things. So I'd always had this 62 year old retirement plan in the back of my mind. Now, as it happens, in February of next year, I will be 62. And so over the last year or so, the last year in particular, I think, you'll have seen through the videos that partly because of the lack of investment I think that I've been making in the store, for valid reasons, having to pay the mortgage, etc., has meant that not having that sort of influx of interesting things constantly means that you start to lose a little bit of interest. I, at that point, you'll have seen in the vlogs, switched from really buying lots of new sets to part out to more of a used model. And the used model was much more sustainable because I'd bought a large store from another seller, which I covered extensively on the channel, which I'm sure regular watchers have seen. And I spent a good deal of time integrating that into my own inventory, etc. And that also came with lots of bulk Lego. That's meant it's sort of kept me busy for a period of time. And many of you will know also that I'm not the quickest in terms of processing that used bulk. I'm quite limited on the space that I have here for sorting apparatus and things like that. I would do things very differently if I wasn't in the space I am in, which might make many of you think, why don't you move to a bigger premises maybe, and have a bigger setup like a lot of other sellers do. But that kind of defeated the purpose of what I'm doing. To me, the whole benefit of doing what I'm doing is being close to the rest of the family, being able to wander in here at any time I feel like it. If we get visitors, I can knock off for 10 minutes and go and spend some time with them. And I didn't want a workplace that was several miles away that I had to make a conscious effort to leave here and go to, and have all of the other issues. We've got childcare and all sorts of other things to consider. So I'm often doing little taxi runs to pick up grandchildren, to drop people here and there. So working in another location just would not really work for me, and would really kind of defeat the object of part of the reason why I'm doing this. Now, in addition to me not buying very much in to add to the store and invest in, what I found that over the last year or two in particular, I found that my mobility was deteriorating. I think because I was spending a lot of time in here, a lot of time seated, wasn't getting my exercising, etc., that I was finding that the pain that I have in my knees was getting off the scale. Now I have osteoarthritis in both knees, but I think it was more kind of the muscle wastage, dare I say, from just sitting around so much. And even though I've had sedentary jobs for much of my life, this was another level. I think I just wasn't getting out and about and making the effort to do things. And as a result of that, over recent months, you'll have heard me mention about going to the gym and maybe trying to improve that health. So I've spent more time investing in getting back some of that mobility and improving the health situation. So that's meant, in order to do that, I've taken time out of running the store. So I'm making a conscious effort multiple days a week to go to the gym, and I've also been dieting over that course as well, and I'm doing pretty well. I've at the moment lost about 3 stone, and have been going to the gym regularly, and I've seen a massive improvement in that mobility. So that's all really positive, but I want to keep investing that time into that health and not sort of revert to what I was doing before. So all of these factors, the fact that I've not been buying things into the store, not been getting exciting new things, the fact that I've been spending less time actually running the store. So even though I say I'm full-time, I probably don't do, you know, a full-time set of hours through the week on the store, which means that I've less to show you, less interesting things to show you, probably because of not investing and buying those new things in. So a lot of what you're seeing is just typical order processing, used sorting, some results of what I'm finding in that used bulk. And as a result of that, understandably, the channel's not grown and as not stagnated, but has not grown in the way that it maybe would have done had I kept doing the more interesting things that everybody wants to see. I've sort of noticed that deterioration in the growth of new subscribers, comments dropping off, watch time a little bit, not enormously, but a little bit, and certainly not really growing significantly. Now, all of this sort of comes together to say that, you know, the intention is still there for me, really, to look at retiring at probably around the age of 62, or if not sooner, you know. Now 62 is February, so what does that tell you? It tells you that I think, you know, the end is pretty close for running the Bricklink store. And in fact, I am on holiday, as I said, at the moment, and when I get back, I think my intention is to spend more time focusing on getting the store into a position where it's ready to be sold. So I think between October and February at the absolute latest, you're gonna see the store go up for sale, I think. Now, one of the challenges of selling a store of this size is that it's a fair chunk of money that people quite possibly don't have. So I think the ability to sell something of this value is possibly going to be limited. But I'm going to try that route first. So I'm interested to see if someone would be interested in taking the store in its entirety. And some of that, in order for me to get to that position to list it, I need to go through my inventory, or at least some of it, particularly minifigure inventory, because you'll know that I run an eBay store as well. So I need to go through the eBay store, make sure that the stock that I've got listed there is included in the Bricklink store. And also I need to do things like get to the container and try and better assess in terms of weight exactly what used bulk I've got left, etc. So that would obviously mean, with the sale of the store, that would be the end of the vlogs. Obviously, if there's no store, there's nothing to vlog. So it would be very likely that the channel would close down. It may be that I leave it open just to market Brickseller Hub more. So I'll continue probably to run Brickseller Hub just because it's a an easy thing to manage. There's no stock involved for me. It's administration only, pretty small amount of administration at that, and we'll see if that can generate a little bit of pocket money. That's probably it. That's probably what I wanted to tell you guys, I think. There is another factor that's sort of playing into this a little bit, which is that I've just managed to pay my mortgage off, which means I don't need quite as much money as I needed previously. And some of you might say, well, then why not just keep running the store, because you need less now, you're going to cover everything that you need with the store, etc. I think you've seen it in the vlogs that, you know, my interest has waned some degree. I find it harder and harder to deal with the repetition and the drudgery of running the store. You know, every day you've got to be up and picking those same old orders. It's a pain for me with the post, getting them out before 10 every morning. And it's hard to motivate yourself to just keep drudging through the used parts and listing process. So I'm kind of thinking, you know, if I can sell up as a whole, then that would get me through a period of months. And then we're looking at pensions and things like that. And maybe, as I've seen on Brickseller Hub, there are people also selling domains, web domains, etc., that maybe even somebody in the future would be interested in the Brick Arena domain, etc., and if you like, almost take over that as a trading name. But you know, everything is under consideration at the moment. So not sure how much of a shock that comes to people, whether you've kind of seen it coming through the vlogs. This isn't the end right now, but it's an indication that the end is in sight, and is probably not that far away. But there's still things to do. We'll still keep doing the vlogs while we're doing it. We'll vlog right through the sale of the store and packing it up and seeing it off, etc. So there's still going to be things to see for the immediate future. But yeah, it would be interesting to hear what you think. What you think about the reasons, what you think about the timing, whether you thought this was expected or not. And you know, feel free to leave a comment, ask any questions, etc. In the meantime, might not seem the best time to say it, but do keep subscribed to the channel if you're interested in seeing how the sale of this goes, how winding it up goes, how to close a store, how to sell it, how to negotiate that pathway, which I think is something that nobody talks about enough. Nobody really thinks about the exit strategy when you're involved in the excitement of getting the store up and running. It's all full head-on excitement. You don't think about the money you're investing and how you're gonna, recoup that and sell up when the time is right to step away from it. So maybe those are topics that we'll talk about a bit more over the coming months. So anyway, with that, I'll leave you for this week. And next week, hopefully, we'll get back to some regular vlogs. But take care and bye for now.